Hi, and welcome back to Epic Restorationz. In our last episode, we took a trip out to Minnesota to pick up a fully restored chassis for our Model A build. We got it back to the shop, and with a little bit of trust, luck, and elbow grease, we hope to hear it running before we button up the barn for winter and move on to bodywork. First things first though, we've got to build a temporary bench and dashboard so that we can attach the wiring to the engine and get the system set to fire. With the leaves changing color each day and Thanksgiving right around the corner, we don't have much time to spare before winter weather returns to Michigan. It's time to kick it in gear, and it's time to get to work.
With winter setting in, and our ability to move the chassis soon to be limited by the snow, we decided that the most important thing on our to-do list right now is to build a temporary bench and dashboard so that we can fire up the engine and hear it run. With so much invested in this chassis, it's imperative that we hear it run before we tuck it away in the barn for a 3-month slumber. With the help of a little wood we had lying around the shop, we began building a bench seat that we could bolt to our chassis. Using some 2x10 and 2x6 pieces, we fashioned a sturdy bench frame and used a nice scrap piece of wood for the seat. Once the bench was bolted down, we used a few smaller pieces of wood to form a temporary dashboard for us to mount the dash plate and terminal box to. With the help of our number 1 employee, Brian, we attached the temporary dashboard to our temporary bench seat, and we were almost ready to start wiring. The chassis came to us with a newly powder-coated frame. The only part that didn't match was the battery box. Using our in-house powder coating equipment and the oven in the shop, we got to work powder coating and then baking our box to match the frame. With the battery box completed and then reattached, it was time to ready the car for wiring. We went through the distributor that came with the chassis and decided it was as good as our other one and that we'd use it. Then we installed the coil and the new plugs from our old chassis. After testing the Tillotson carb that came on this chassis, we found that we had issues with the float. Having previously rebuilt our Marvel Shubler carb, we quickly swapped them out and successfully tested it. We used an eye-hook to attach the portable gas tank to the temporary bench seat and a smaller eye-hook to hold the gav in place. Next came the wiring. Using a Model A wiring diagram, we began wiring up the car. Before long, everything was connected and we were ready to attempt to fire up the engine. After a little trouble with the ignition switch, George fired up the engine and we started to burn off some of that old storage oil. After adjusting the carb and idling it down, the car was purring like a champ. Before putting it away for the night, we discovered that the clutch pedal would need to be adjusted if we wanted to get it running and take it for a test drive. Join us next time as we tackle this adjustment and more on the next episode of Epic Restorationz.